Welcome to Financials with How. It's a blessing and a joy to be with you together again as we continue on our Making Wealth series. So this month, we're excited to begin speaking about financial resuscitation. Now, I know the words look difficult and you're probably thinking, why does it even have a medical inclination? But it's just because it makes sense to speak about having looked at debt, having looked at budgets, having looked at investments. What about that person who's feeling I'm nowhere with any of this? And what can I do to get myself back on track, back to a place where things make sense? So our topic of discussion today is starting over. And ideally starting over means one, maybe you are at a certain good level and something may have happened, one or two decisions that have inclined you back in another direction. Or maybe you even want to do more from where you already are. Maybe you already invest, you have a debt management strategy, you work off well with budgets, but you're thinking, I'm doing the bare minimum. How can I start this over and be able to do better than I have been doing before? So ideally, it's important first to place yourself, where are you at? Am I a starter completely just going on this journey afresh? Or have I been on this journey already and I'd like to, upscale or upgrade and do more? Or would I even like to now, I'm in a different life situation. So maybe I was doing this as a single person and now I'm maybe getting married in a committed relationship and we now need to think through our finances as a unit. Or maybe I was doing this as a unit, two of us or with a group, and now I need to start thinking of how I'm doing it on my own. So first, know where you're at. The only way to move in any direction is to know where you're starting from. It's not so that you know where to come back to when you fail, but it's more that you know where you're at really the bare minimum, the starting point, then you can know what you need to build up to. So I'd look at those four scenarios. First, place yourself. Where am I at? Then two, once you know where you're at, is to determine where do I want to go to. So if I'm a total new person, probably do I want to understand budgets? Then from understanding budgets, do I have any debt that I want to know how to manage? Then how do I want to build up to investments? And then how do I even want to make sure that I'm running a healthy cycle, even as the different seasons in my life change or different things are happening for me in my career and financially. So I feel like starters have the joy of this clean canvas and you can write on it whichever direction you want to take. So the caution that you take there is to work with others. I'd say starters. Identify people, identify ideas or ways of thinking that are able to get you in the direction you want to go at as a starter in your finances. Then when it comes to people kind of who've been doing this and they want to upscale or go higher, the question would be, what has become a comfort? So begin to ask yourself, what has become a comfort and what new levels of discomfort do I need to incorporate so that I could get to the next level? So in one of the series when we talked about budgets, I talked about percentages. I'm a stickler for percentages because that's the way I learned it. If I put my contributions, my savings, my debt management on a percentage basis, it means as my income increases, automatically all of this, the payoffs, the savings, the contributions go up. So it becomes very easy for me not to begin to spend more, for instance, and I'm still saving what I used to save with a lower level of income, yet I have a higher level of income. So for this level, I'd say really, what's the new discomfort? Maybe I had initially set myself just 10% of savings, but I realized that I have capacity to take up 15. So how do I rework the approach I had been taking to onboard this new discomfort that can get me to the next place to resuscitate my finances? Because we also know that the cost of living does not get lower, it actually gets higher. And of course, we have investments that appreciate, but there's also inflation. Inflation gets higher. Their interest rates, they get higher. And looking at what the world has been in the last 2 years, we've seen recessions threatening to happen. We've seen economies slowing down. We've seen projections changing from very optimistic to fairly optimistic. So kind of just the alertness to how prepared are you to be able to walk into this kind of new financial atmosphere. Then the other group are those who are used to doing things alone, and then you're moving to doing things as a unit. So I look at it in the context of maybe a relationship, and some certain type of family establishment. So you're used to doing money on your own. And the first thing I'd say, especially if you're coming in and this is going to be like now a lifetime thing of doing money together, is to understand how the other person has been managing money. The assumption is normally we come together, it's all heaven, and we know how things work, but no. You may have come from a place of I've diligently been, just walking through my finances in a certain way. I'm set, I plan to have children. There's money waiting for school fees. I always pay my rent 2 months in advance and things like that. And then another person coming in and like, okay, rent is paid when it's due. Children, the day they come is the way we realize how much you need to spend. All my money has all these people it needs to help. So kind of, it's another resuscitation because you're both of you coming to face the reality or be hit by the reality, however it happens, that we have to now come down or come together and manage money as a unit. I was listening to a story actually, and a friend of mine was sharing, she's like the super diligent type, like writes everything. I'm here for it. I want to know 10 shillings or $1 or 1 franc, €1. Where did it go? But her partner, he's on the other side. First, writing for him is a source of pressure, so I'm not going to write anything. And they kind of have to find the balance because her mind cannot process the lack of accountability through writing. And his mind is very fine with it. So kind of also just realizing that it's not that what you're kind of letting go of these other things, trying to see what the other person has that you can work together and resuscitate your finances as a unit. The fourth category is someone who's been used to working as a unit. And for whatever life circumstance you find yourself in, you now have to go back to working as an individual. So again, that's a different type of resuscitation. Certain expenses may now become heavier because they were being done together. Certain expenses may have to be totally released because they are just not sustainable. Certain newer expenses may have to be taken in because maybe when the income and the financial situation was as a unit, then the weight of it was easy to just bear off. So kind of also understanding, what can I manage? One, what do I need? Two, what do I want, but I could plan for later? Because I also don't think just because you've moved from being a unit to being, like an individual, you have to stop certain levels of things you had done, but you just have to rethink through how are you doing them now. What timelines are you giving yourself as you do them? Maybe as a unit, you plan for a holiday and every 3 months is a holiday. But as an individual, you may have to rethink that and maybe move to 6 months a holiday, a year a holiday, Or maybe if it was paying off school fees, you would pay off school fees as a unit in 3 months or in 6 months. But now as an individual, you probably have to pay off in 9 months, in a year and a half. So kind of just coming to terms with the realities of this situation of moving from being a unit to an individual. Now, what I've shared is just top of the iceberg, just to kind of getting you to think that there's a possibility to start over. There's a possibility to start walking this journey in a way that I'm making the best financial decisions. But it's going to start with me. The place of analysis, the place of, slowing down and then running once you understood where you're at. And then also the place of checking yourself as you go along the way. From the very beginning, we talked about a journal. And I know, man, we don't like to write. But if you don't write, you're not going to know where you're going. So I'd urge you, get back into the place of keeping yourself accountable through writing. and then joining others in your accountability community by sharing what you're comfortable with, so that then they keep you growing in the right direction. Thank you for listening. It's a joy. I'm looking forward to the next conversation. It's a